This is a Socopex connector. Socopex came into vogue in the early days of rock and roll touring, where there were just hundreds of lights run all over the place, and we needed to send a lot of cable. And rather than run individual runs of cable, they came up with a way that they could run 6 circuits, the equivalent of 6 pieces of wire, right, through one multi-conductor cable or a multi-cable, right? And so the Socopex connector was an existing connector that they sort of adopted and repurposed to be able to do this. There were several competitors for that title, but Socopex ultimately won out. Socopex connector is 19 pins. There's 18 pins around the circle, and then it has the 19th pin in the center. Multi-cable is number 12 AWG, and that's American wire gauge, and I will cover that in a later lecture. But it does have 14 conductors, so there are 14 separate pieces of wire inside of this jacket. Now, you may be a little confused in the fact that I'm using 14 conductors on a 19 pin. The way that this breaks out is 12 of these wires provide a hot and a neutral to each circuit. And the last 2 wires, the number 13 and 14, are a ground, a common ground for all of the other 6 circuits. So what they do when they wire this connector, the center 7 pins all share 2 wires, and they are both ground, right? So that provides the ground for all of them, right? This is rated at 120 volts to 240 volts at 20 amps. Again, that sort of depends on how long or what the distance is that you're going to run it. But a Socopex is a great way to be able to run cable, a lot of circuits, with just one piece of wire. It gets a little heavy, but it's not nearly as heavy as 6 individual cable runs. So Socopex has really come on the concert touring industry and the theater industry, anywhere that we need to move multiple circuits. Now, the multi-pin connector by itself, although a great connector, has very little use when we get to the other end. So what we have to do is we have to break in or break out, right? So a break-in is a way to put power onto a multi-cable, and a break-out is how we get power off of it. And if you look in this upper right-hand side, you'll see a stage pin break-in, right, where we have 6 stage pin connectors that feed each one of the pins in the Socopex receptacle connector. And then below that, we have stage pin connectors, right, connected to a Socopex plug, right? So this would go on the other end. And so this would be 6 circuits into a multi-cable and then 6 circuits out of a multi-cable. And there are as many different kinds of connectors as you can imagine that go onto a Socopex break-in, break-out. Right? You may have stage pin that comes in, and then you want power con that comes out, to where I have 6 power con outlets that come out, or twist lock that wants to come out, or Edison that wants to come out, or Edison that wants to go in, right? So Socopex break in and break out is actually where you start to define. But the Socopex cable in itself are all the same. They're number 12 AWG with 14 conductors, and where they all share a ground. And so that is Socopex.